You want to open up your tutorials, and you want to add a new comp. So go to Composition, New, and you want to call this comp your last name, your first initial, and Text Animators. Make sure that it is HDV, HDTV 720, 29.97. It has to be 1280 by 720, 29.97 frames per second, and 5 seconds for the duration. Click OK. We want to select the workspace of text. That way you'll have all of the different text characteristics available. And you want to reset your text workspace to make sure that things haven't been moved around. And now you want to use Layer New Text. Well, you have to have the timeline selected first, but then you use Layer New Text. Or you can just go to the T and double click it. So now you want to type the text Animators, and you want it to be all in capitals. So press caps lock and type TXT Animators. There, Animators. And now, anytime you've used the caps lock, you want to make sure to turn it off immediately, because if you don't, you'll get this warning: refresh disabled, release caps lock to refresh view. So you won't be able to see any changes you have made unless you turn off the caps lock. So that's something you have to be aware of. You want to select all the text. You can come up here and click 3 times. And you want to change the character properties. Let's use Helvetica. Helvetica Neue. And let's use bold so it shows up well. We want to have a white fill. Right now it's set to be yellow, so I'm going to turn it to white. And I want no stroke, so there's no stroke. And let's go to 90 for the size. Make sure the paragraph is centered. If you have it aligned to the left or the right, you want to make sure that it is centered so it stays in the middle. And now let's come down here and say Command-S. Okay, you want to come down here and click it once to make sure that it's selected with the handles. If it's selected like that, you don't want it to be like that, so then you have to click down here and click it once to make sure it's selected with the handles. Twirl down the triangle next to the Text Animator's layer name, and you can see you have both text and transform. We only want to use text with the animate field and not the transform for this. So in order to clean up the area so you don't have to look at it, if you hold down Option and Shift and then click on transform, it'll disappear. It's still available. All you need to do is twirl back up and twirl back down. It's back again. But this way you have less stuff cluttering up your space. Click on the triangle to the right of Animate to reveal the properties that are available. Select Position to create Animator 1. So Animate Position. And then all these little options come up. Go down to Animator 1 and twirl down the rectangle on the range selector. And you will see that you have start, end, and offset, and position down here. The start and end values tell you what percentage of the text is selected, and as the value for start is changed, any change in the position value will show on your selected frame. So let's change the Y value for position to 300. So here's position, Here's the Y value. Let's take it up to 300. You see it goes all the way down. Drag the value for start slowly, and you can see what happens to the text. Bring it up, and each of the letters goes up. So set the value for start to 100 and drag the value for end to 0. And all the letters go back down. Now we'll set the value for start back to 0 and the value for end to 100. It's Command-S. And now, make sure that your CTI is at 0. We want to click on the Start keyframe stopwatch. You don't want to turn on the stopwatch for anything else right now. You just want to do the Start. Let's go to the frame at 2:15. So 2 seconds and 15 frames. There we go. And now at this frame you want to change the start value to 100%. Let's Command-S. And now we'll do a RAM preview and see what happens. So each of the characters moves up. They only move as an entire character. They don't move as partial characters. But it also moves the space as a single character. So this is something to keep in mind. You can set it so it ignores spaces. But for right now we're going to do it this way. You can add properties to an existing text animator. So we have these 2 keyframes. We don't have to add any more keyframes. We don't want to add another animator. We want to add a property to the animator. So let's go ahead and add a property to the animator. Let's go ahead and add a property of scale. Okay, so for scale, let's set the scale to 25%. And it's linked, so it will make everything 25%. Let's choose skew and add another property. Let's set the skew value to 20. But leave the skew axis. Don't change the skew axis. Let's choose opacity. Let's set the opacity to 25%. I'm going to drag this up a little so we can see more screen here. And now we're going to add one more. We're going to choose rotation. So we're going to add a property of rotation. We'll set the rotation to 30 degrees. Okay. Command-S and do a RAM preview. And I'm going to drag this down. We'll make it bigger again. So you don't have to add more keyframes. Your keyframes are already there. All you had to do was change the property and add some number to the property values, and it did whatever you wanted. Okay, so let's stop that. Go back to the beginning, Command-S, and let's go to Composition. and add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. Okay, you can come down to the Media Encoder and open it up when it's ready. Make sure the setting is for H.264 HD 720p by 29.97, and that will be underneath the TV broadcast H.264, and then you come down to HD 720p 29.97. So make sure that that is the one it is using, and if it's not, you want to grab it and then you want to drag it and drop it on top of it, and that will make it the right setting. It always depends on who's been using it before you, because it will have the last settings there. Okay, make sure it's there, see where it's going, I know where it's going, and now I'm going to click on the green triangle, and it will start to encode. And when it finishes, it will make that sound, and then you can go ahead and you can exit the Media Encoder. Make sure that you have saved your file. It seems to be saved. And it should be in the same folder where you got your original project from. And there it is.